What's going on, everybody? Steve here again. This time I'm in Terre Haute, Indiana at the Sheridan Skate Park, which is what you see behind me. Now, this particular skate park was originally a swimming pool, and there's like even a bathhouse or whatever right next to it. But this park was built in like the 1920s, and then back around COVID time, like 2020, 2021, the city decided we need to rip out the swimming pool and replace it. And somebody suggested to build a skate park in that place as well and kind of use the foundation that was there, especially the dugout areas, to pour a skate park. And so that's what the city decided to do. And they hired Groundworks Construction to build the park. So what you're going to see at this particular park is a good example of what happens when an inexperienced construction company builds a skate park, but still has good, solid experience with concrete. So the obstacles are a little bit strange, but the finishing on it is really good. And I think this park sets up well for beginners, but as you might see, it's definitely got some quirks to it. So with that said, let me take you through the park and you can see it for yourself. So I'm going to kick things off by starting at like the back part of the park, or I guess more of the central part, away from the street. And what you see in front of me is kind of like the area in which the swimming pool used to be. And so this dugout area used to be a swimming pool, and again, they decided to pour concrete in here and make it a skate park. Now, starting at the end here, the first thing you see is this kind of like moon crescent curve quarter pipe area. This is really just a bank ramp, and it does have coping on the edge of it, but as you can see how it's set into the cement, it's not done properly. So an experienced skate park builder wouldn't do it this way. The coping actually should be sticking out, and the concrete should be kind of going into the middle of the coping there instead of just kind of sitting parallel with the top. So unfortunately, the coping on this isn't done well, but it still is a fun thing to skate and is smooth. Doesn't really have a quarter pipe radius. Again, it skates more like a bank ramp, but you do have some decking on there on the top. Unfortunately though, you kind of have to just carve around it because you have a wall in front of you that prevents you from like going right into the bowl. So I don't think this wall makes a lot of sense here. It probably would have been better to just have a roll in or something like that to get into the bowl, but it is what it is. Now, surrounding the top decking of the big bowl area are a couple like, I guess like BMX pump track style obstacles. So you have this like rollover, like camel hump thing. It's actually got a good radius to it, even though they put expansion joist seams like in the middle of the ramps. That doesn't affect you too much, but that's really not how you want to be doing it. So it is what it is, but nice and smooth still. The only thing is that you don't have a lot of room to set up for it. Now you've got this little like weird flat bar thing. This pole, which is like a 4-inch diameter pole, is set on top of a concrete block, almost like cinder blocks, and meant to be a flat bar. The only problem is that it's right next to the grass. So you don't really have a great opportunity to land and keep going straight. You can land right on the edge of the sidewalk or whatever. So not set the right way, but could be interesting. Might even be something that you could slap you onto as well, because this is angled a little bit. This whole thing is about 10 feet long or so. I'm gonna cover a couple little like low impact areas. You've got this like fish pond bowl thing that has these little kickers over a gap. Nobody's ever gonna like really air those kickers because there's probably 5 or 6 feet of space between the kicker and the part of the fishbowl that you land in, but you can roll over the bank right in the middle and air out. Now it does have where those kids are standing like this little like tombstone obstacle, but I'll get up close to it and you'll see that it is not ideal for skating out of the fishbowl. One thing I do want to point out is this manual pad. This thing is about 6 inches tall or so, maybe 8 inches tall, has coping on every edge of it, and is about I'd say about 10 feet long. So it does set up well for manual tricks as well as grinds and slides and things like that, and super smooth on top. Edge is a little bit sharp, but all good, skates well. This is just a quick view of that bank ramp. As you can see, it's not flush with the the edge of the fishbowl. So you've got like a bit of a deck on top of it. These things are actually probably my favorite part of this park. You've got these little like bank ramps with a 2-stair and box setup. These support all kinds of different roll-on grind setups. And so it just ends up being kind of an interesting thing to skate. And I'll kind of wrap around it, but you'll see like there's a good mix of like low impact stuff. It's good for beginners to learn on. So you can see a couple other parts of this low impact area. Again, this like 2-stair setup with wedge ramps that are really mellow and easy to skate. One other part of the low impact section that you have is this about 16-foot long flat bar. It's square tubing, about a foot off the ground. So it sets up both frontside and backside, although this kicker is kind of in the way a little bit. And you don't have a lot of time to land and keep going. But needless to say, it's a well-made flat bar and good for learning tricks on. All right, so now I'm in the bowl area, and the first thing and probably the most obvious obstacle in this is the big Kong wall that's like 12 feet tall or so. It's just kind of one big long bank ramp that transitions into more of like a tombstone wedge thing. Really kind of out of place, but the quarter pipes around it are about 5 feet tall, and that's like the whole depth of the bowl. And so you can see a lot of these quarter pipes, there's no coping. It's just like a painted edge. So that you could basically roll in on it, but you could catch the bottom of your truck. But it's very much like an old school pool design, almost like something you would see at a skate park in the 1970s, where there's no coping at all. It's just like an edge. So that, unfortunately, is the reality of this entire setup, but there's lots of hips in here, including a spine, which is what you see in front of me. Now, the spine is about a foot wide on top, and they put this like recycled bench material on top of it and almost like shaped it like, hey, we're going to reuse this part of the park. Not bad, but this is not what you want from a skating perspective. You'd much rather have some tubing or something like that to serve as the top of your spine. Now, there is this like little pyramid area inside the bowl that's about 2 feet tall. You can see they put brick on top of it. Or maybe that's stamped concrete, I'm not really sure. But this whole thing basically functions as a very easy to skate hip. Sets up well, actually, even though it's not, it doesn't have coping or anything like that on it. The radius on the quarters is actually decent. So that is a positive about this particular park. There's a few other sections like this kind of love seat hip thing. Doesn't really serve much of a purpose without any kind of coping to grind across, but there was an attempt at least. And then as we kind of make our way throughout the bowl, you'll see other hip areas, kind of like spine sort of thing, just some like escalator stuff. Right in front of me, I'm in like more of a 4-foot area that goes up to a 5-foot area. So it's definitely a mix of heights, but unfortunately without any coping, this doesn't make it so that it's really an ideal bowl. And on top of that, you've probably noticed on the ground, they cut like expansion seams throughout the bottom of it, which is more like what you would expect on a sidewalk rather than a bowl. So it makes it so that it's a little bit like suspicious in terms of like how well was this made and how well was it designed. All right, a couple more things. We've got, a couple of these like BMX style like fly box areas to be essentially a pump track, and that moves into like this like little micro mini ramp area which you see these kids skating. This thing is really poorly made. I mean, the coping, it does not stick out at all, but it is good for beginners. It's only about a foot and a half tall, and as you can see, it does get used. So there are some benefits to it despite the issues with the design. All right, I'm going to try to voice this over even though there's a lot of background noise. One good thing about this particular skate park is that you do have this like beginner area that's sheltered. I think this is fantastic for skate parks to have for like kids who are just experimenting with skating for the first time. Smooth concrete, low impact. It's only about a foot tall, foot and a half tall, and just good for kind of getting comfortable with a skateboard for the first time. So nice feature here. and it's in the shade as well, so works for a lot of different people, and maybe even offers something to skate in the winter when there's snow on the ground. Okay, so that does it for the Sheridan Park Skate Park here in Terre Haute, Indiana. If you're in the area and you're looking for a place to skate, obviously the park is really smooth and has some fun obstacles, so maybe you'll want to come check it out. Otherwise, there's another skate park in the area as well at Voorhees Park, and you can skate that one too. If you have any questions about this park, just drop them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next skate park tour video. Thanks for watching.